Our first guest today is Lieutenant Todd Coring from the Sheriff's Department.
Well, welcome to the show today, Lieutenant Coring.
It's a pleasure. Yes, ma'am.
We're glad to be here. This is going to be a great show for our viewers. I'm real excited about this. First of all, tell me what your role is here at the 911 call center.
Well, I'm the director of the 911 center, which means I pretty much just oversee the daily operations and the functions here in our center and make sure that the staffing is where it needs to be and that we have our all of our equipment needs met and things of that nature.
Well, that's great. Well, let's just dive right in.
Okay.
Tell me what we're looking at here at the 911 call center.
Okay, well, this is one of our positions here, our CAD positions, or our call location centers, and this is one of our communication staff members that is working the station.
This is Miss Dana, right?
It is Miss Dana, yes. She's a very fine worker, and she is just taking calls, and they have several screens that they use to help process the calls. You have your radio CAD system on one side, then you have your actual calls coming in the center. And then you have a GPS screen which maps the calls, so sometimes as big as our county is, it's hard to locate callers, especially those calling in with cell phones, so we can map the caller here, and then the phone system is actually in another monitor. So they have several monitors that they have to look at.
So if you were on your cell phone, the GPS would pick it up and show you your location?
Well, what happens when we have callers that call in on the cell phone, it gives us the address of the cell phone tower that you're closest to.
I see.
And then we have to do what we call a rebid on the address and use technology to help us locate the caller better. So all that takes place with the caller talking with our communication staffer at the time. So.
Okay. Well, tell me this, at a basic level, when do you call 911? I'm never real sure about that myself.
Well, and that's a real good question, because we have a lot of folks that wonder sometimes, when do I call 911, or am I bothering folks by calling 911?
Right.
But any situation that you're unsure of, we request that you call 911, because if you hesitate on something or you doubt yourself, we would just rather you call us, and we have call takers that will take your information and they will field the situation and tell us what kind of response is necessary. So whether it's an emergency or non-emergency, we just ask that everyone call in for 911 assistance.
So for instance, if I saw some strange person wandering around my neighborhood that I know they don't live there, I would call 911?
Yes, ma'am, and those situations are some of the ones that people ask about sometimes, but that situation could be something very urgent in nature. That person could have just broken into a house, or they could be looking at the neighborhood or casing the neighborhood. So if it's suspicious to you, it is certainly suspicious to us, because you're the eyes in that neighborhood. You know, our officers that patrol, they may think that person lives in the area, but you living there and seeing that and knowing that it's something that is kind of suspicious, that's alarming to us, so we just want you to call 911 for that.
Now, I have a security system at my house, and I'm curious how that works with the 911 call center, because I have a dog that has set off my motion detectors before in the house.
Yes, ma'am.
And the sheriff's department typically comes, or the local police department.
Right.
Does that call actually generate here, or?
Well, a lot of questions are asked about that, but most of the time the alarm companies have their own call centers, and they're what we call a third party. So your alarm system will actually activate and go to their call center, and then they will send it to us or whatever municipality area that it's registered in. But all of the county calls come into our center, and we'll take the location and what type of alarm it is, and we will dispatch the proper needed resources.
Okay, well, let's talk about fire a little bit. Now, if there's a fire in a home and you place that call, does that call come here?
It does. If you call 911 from your residence or from your cell phone, it will come directly into our center. And like I said, we want you just to be patient and calm and be able to answer the questions that we will ask you, because when you call in, we have questions that we're going to ask to try to see what kind of necessary resources are needed. So we want to know if it's a car fire, if it's a vehicle fire, if it is a house fire, because those things help us know what kind of response we need to send for fire.
So you encourage folks to stay on the line, don't hang up, don't call 911 and say there's a fire. They need to answer the questions, and that would help you figure out what to do next.
Yes, ma'am. We're just going to encourage you to stay calm, and then we've got a series of questions that we will ask you, because like I said, we need to know exactly what's going on. You were there at the time. We're just sitting here trying to get the resources gathered to send to that emergency. So the information you give us is very, very critical. So we're just going to encourage you to stay calm and just answer our questions and stay on the line until they ask you to disconnect. Or if it's something that we need you to stay on the line for, we may ask that you stay on the line and to give us an update as it's
I wanted to talk a little
happening.
bit about the medical side of it. since we're focusing on that today and later on in our show,
Yes, ma'am.
when a call comes in and a person's like having a heart attack or something, tell me how that would work.
Well, what happens then, again, you call in and we're going to answer the phone, obviously, and we're going to ask, what is going on and where are you? And once we determine that it is, in fact, a medical emergency, we have an emergency medical dispatch procedure that's followed. And the primary nature of the call will dictate what kind of questions it will ask. And Dana's kind of pulling that up now. We have a ProQA, priority dispatch, and that is fielded through our medical director's office and our paramedics. And we're going to ask you, what is going on and try to find out some of those symptoms. And depending on the symptoms, there are actual types of emergencies that we can help you with and give you pre-arrival instructions until the medics do arrive.
So there may be some things you could start at home.
Right.
Before the paramedics
Yes, ma'am.
get
Things
there.
like if someone is choking or someone has some severe bleeding or CPR instructions, our folks are the actual first responders to that emergency, and they will give you directions and assistance on the phone until we can get help to you.
And so I assume that there are policies and protocols already set up to determine the medical emergencies and what you do. If this is the symptom, this is what you do.
Right.
So
It's a computer-aided system, and all of the staff here they go to school for this, and they have hours that they maintain monthly, and keeps their accreditations up. And like I said, it will help us help you. Because sometimes, it takes a little while to get an emergency unit to your residence. So if we can keep you on the phone and keep you calm and you can give us updated information, we can help you with that.
How many dispatchers do you have here?
On a shift right now, we have 6 on a shift, and we have 32 total personnel with our communication staff. So at any given time, we have 6 to 7.
6 people here.
So
and it's 24/7.
24 hours. We're always here and ready to help our public and get the help that you need.
Let's talk a little bit about the training that, for instance, Dana and the rest of the crew might go through in order to be a 911 call.
Well, we do. That's a good question. We do have folks that come in that do have training, and some are new, and they want to just come on board and help. But there's a series of schools that we send you to once you come in, and we get you acclimated to the system. We have to send you to a couple of different schools that are required by sheriff's training and standards because we do fall under that. So there's a 40-hour class that you have to go to for that. Then there's another 3 to 4 day course that you have to go through for the emergency medical dispatch. And then there's some DCI, criminal information systems. So there's a lot of training.
That's a lot of training.
A series of 4 to 5 classes.
And is there ongoing training?
They do. Once you start here, you will train here in our center. So you'll come in, and like you said, once we get you acclimated and you get kind of settled in, we'll start you with a call taking usually first to teach you how to field those calls and things of that nature, and then we'll move you on to our fire and law and EMS consoles because each workstation handles a different type of emergency responder area. So this is actually a law console, so she's dispatching for one of our law enforcement agencies in the county.
It seems like a stressful job. I'm sure you have support for your personnel so that if they need...
We do, yes, ma'am. There's a supervisor on each shift, and they kind of work with myself, and I have an operations manager, and sometimes we're listening in our offices, and if they have a situation that's critical or we see that there's something going on, we'll step in the center and talk with them and make sure that they're doing okay. And we try to debrief situations, and the sheriff's office is fortunate to have a chaplain's corps, and they work hand in hand with us. So when we do have those serious calls or a death call that, it's stressful on us because, you're on the phone with some folks and sometimes they pass away on the phone with our staff. So we have a chaplain's unit that will come in, and meet with us. So it's very helpful. So.
How many calls do you get monthly, let's say?
Monthly, they range from anywhere from 15,000 to 22,000, depending on what season we're in. Our summer season, with all of our tourists, it triples our population, so that'll run our call volume up. So.
Okay. Well, that's all great information. Just to be clear now, the 911 call center falls under the Sheriff's Department. Is that correct?
It does. That started here it's been a little over a year. In July, we started with the 911 center being under the Sheriff's Office. And right now we're in the process of building a new call center.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. I heard that you're building a new call center.
Yes, ma'am. We're excited about that. It's a block away from this location now. And this building was operational in 1992. So the call center and emergency fire and EMS all ran out of this building. So there was a grant that was achieved, and it's a $2.1 million grant. So we are building a standalone call center next to our existing sheriff's office. So
and that opens when?
It will open, the building will be complete August of this year, and we will probably be operational in October.
Oh, that's great.
Yes,
so this year it'll be operational.
Right. There's a lot of equipment that's going in, and we're really excited. It's just a standalone call center, which will double our space here and give us room for expansion and future needs.
Will that mean all new equipment?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, that's
Yes,
great.
yes,
So it'll
we're
probably
excited.
have all the bells and whistles.
It
and
will. We've got a lot of new technology coming in.
Sure.
And with all the cell phone calls we have now, it used to be back when I started working, I was actually a dispatcher when this building opened, right out of high school, and you know, it was mostly landlines coming in. So if you called 911, us answering the phone would tell us your address and who lives there and what fire and EMS units are needed. But with the new technology and everyone going to cell phones, that call ratio is different now. It's about 80-20, 80% being cell phone callers calling in. So the public needs to know that when a cell phone call is received here, we have to find out where you are. So we encourage folks, especially with tourist season coming up, to know what town you're in. If you're here visiting, if you're on a beach and you have an emergency, know that you're on Oak Island or you're on Holden Beach. And
that's true. They might not even know their
we have a
address
lot
or
of
where
them
they are.
that'll panic, riptides and things going on.
Right.
They say, I'm on the beach, I need an ambulance. So, what beach are you on?
Beach?
And they're in the middle of a crisis, so they don't really know. So we just encourage folks to know your location.
Well, that's been great information. This has been so interesting. I think it's important to get that information out to the viewers.
Yes, ma'am.
And so hopefully we'll be able to do that by having the show. So we're going to go out and we're going to look at ambulances now.
Very
so
good. Well, thank you for
thanks so
stopping
much
by.
for having us.
Yes, ma'am. We thank you very much.
And we'll come back when you have your new building. How's
we look
that?
forward to that. Yes, ma'am.
That'd be
We'll send you an
great.
invite. So we look forward to seeing you.
Great. And thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.